Hello everyone. Welcome to Module 5. So we are at a very important stage of our writing project 2 process, and it's also a little bit of an awkward stage. Hopefully by now you have found your 4 sources, or you are very close to finding your 4 sources. And remember, these sources are going to be articles where experts or credible people have written about the same topic that you identified in your autoethnographic essay. And the reason we're doing that is to get a better, more full, more robust, more rich understanding of what this issue or phenomenon looks like beyond simply our perspective. And then what we're going to do is we are going to report on what we have found to an academic audience. Okay? So as we move into the writing portion, this week we're going to focus on how to synthesize, and that can be very tricky, and so I have a really great method on doing that. And then next week we're going to be putting this together and submitting it. So let's look really quickly at the schedule. And I'm going to go over here to the syllabus, because I think down at the bottom is that great kind of calendar to get a little bird's eye view of where we are. So let's see, we are right here, the 6th. And so we have our library research report is going to be due on Monday. And then we will have about 10 days to put this together. And this right here, this SOAR mapping, that's what I'm going to spend time talking about today, because that is going to be key. That method on how to bring together these different voices into a single essay, into a single report, is a really important part of what we're going to be doing. And it's something that helps me throughout my writing always. And so I'm hoping that you all can find it very helpful. So the first thing I want to do is open up this assignment to remind you what we're doing in the essay. Okay? I'm not going to go into too much detail in the research. You've already had this. Read over it several times. Watch this video several times. Okay? But I've added a couple images just to help you. So we have, up until this point, we've been working on the research. And what we are doing, like I said, we're finding credible people and listening to what they have to say. So this first image kind of depicts that. We are gathering 4 experts or stakeholders, people who have written about this issue. We're gathering them around the table. We're finding the sources. We're saving them. We're reading them because we are listening to what these experts have to say. Too often, we want to jump into the conversation too quickly before we even listen to what other people have to say. And this listening, kind of suspending our judgment for a while, suspending our opinion for a while, and listening to what the experts have to say with an open mind is key in gaining new knowledge, accurate knowledge. And so that's what we've been doing up until this point. Okay, that's kind of what we're going to continue doing a little bit, but that's where we are. So the essay, once we start writing this essay, we are simply reporting to an academic audience. So our autoethnography, that was written for other students. This is going to be a much more formal report. Okay, it's similar to something you might present to a boss or a client or something like that. And so this is going to be more formal, and you're simply going to tell your audience what these people have to say. Okay, you're not going to share your opinion. You're not going to judge whether they are right or wrong. You're simply going to report on what these people have to say. And so if you look down here, you're going to take a neutral stance. You're simply describing the conversation to your academic audience. It's much like a report, okay? And it's going to be about 1,000 words. And third person, because third person kind of retains that neutral, objective point of view. If we start writing an I or we, then we undermine any kind of appearance of neutrality. All right? And so if we go back into our overview for Module 5, let's see, I have here again, I provided these in the last module, but they're here also the student examples, okay, of what this type of essay looks like. I also have some really important material here on how to write summaries. On first of all, what synthesizing is, and I'll open those up in just a minute, but also how to write a summary, because the most effective way to present these conversations, these different opinions, and create a conversation out of these sources to our audience is by summarizing them, telling them what they have to say. You know, so-and-so, they had this to say on the issue. And then this other person, they agreed on these points, but they disagreed on this third point. And here's what this fourth person had to say. Now, what we do not want is just a list of summaries, a big, laundry list of every paragraph being a different summary of a different article. That's not synthesizing. Synthesizing is bringing them together. And so there's a few great articles on how to synthesize, what synthesizing looks like. Read over those. But right now I'm going to spend most of the time talking about this mapping exercise that we are going to be doing. And I'm going to show you how it applies to the student examples. Okay, so I'll just open this one because that's going to be, AP 9 is also about the SOAR method, but I'm going to open these student examples right here of SOAR mapping. And this mapping exercise, it's a method on how to organize all of these different voices, which if you're like me, they're easily, I lose control. If I get so many sources, I lose track of who's saying what, who's agreeing with whom, and all of these kind of things. And so this method really works well. And so I have a template here. It's called the SOAR method. And I have some examples. And I'm going to ask you all to do this. Grab a big piece of paper. The biggest you can find would work the best. And you're going to map your sources out. And you're going to be turning this in. But this is the SOAR method. And so let me close this really quickly. The SOAR method stands for select. So you've already selected your 4 sources, okay? You're going to organize them for O. Then you're going to find the associations. Where do they agree? What are some of the common points of discussion that several of them, talk about? And then you're going to use your reasoning, okay? And so this map, what it looks like, here's the template. So you can download this or copy this. You're not going to write right on this. You're going to write this on your own piece of paper. This is just a template. But you're going to write the author's names all across the top. Okay, there's 5 here. You only need 4. You can use 5. And then you're going to write the title of the article, so to keep them organized, to keep track of them. Then you're going to draw a line and write down the main argument. What is their main claim, their main opinion that they are sharing in this article? And then you're going to break down the points that they make in their article. Okay, this first one, they have 4 points. This second one, they have 3 main points. You can look at the paragraphs, the sections, to see kind of what points they are making. And after you write them out, this all out, that's all the selecting and the organizing. This is where, excuse me, but this is where the magic starts to happen. And it's awkward. It is awkward, but this is so helpful. So once you do that, start looking at these points. Look at all of them and start thinking, okay, wait a minute. Look, what you're looking for are common points. The same things that several different authors talk about, okay? So you can say, okay, this first author, his point C, let's see. I'm going to write that down here, what he's saying, but because if I look over here, this third author talks about the same thing. The fourth author talks about the same thing. So I'm going to write down that common point of discussion. Just a little sentence, just a little bullet point that describes what they're talking about. Okay? And I'm going to do this over here. Okay, this author, this fourth author, they make this point over here, this other point in their article. Well, wait a minute, this third author, they also talk about the same thing. Whether they agree or disagree, it doesn't really matter. They're talking about the same thing. And also this fifth one. All right, I'm going to write down that common point. So you're going to find the common points of discussion that each of these talk about. Now, there might be some on here. There probably will be some of the authors who talk about something that nobody else talks about. If you want to just kind of ignore that, that's fine. If you find another one of those points that nobody else is talking about, is important that you want to address or that you feel like you need to tell your audience about, it's okay to include that. Okay, you can have one line going over here all by itself, but that's going to be rare. And then the reasoning comes in. And I have here, you're going to step back and you're going to look at this and think, okay, what are the main common points of discussion? So these are the money makers right here. These are the key things. And you're going to think, which ones do I want to write about in my essay? Which common points of discussion do I want to tell my academic audience about? And then you're going to circle those, and what those are going to become are the sections of your essay. They can even be the basis for the topic sentences of the different sections of your essay. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if we go over here to a student example, let's see. Well, here I've got some examples of different mapping that you can look at. These are a lot of different styles, and in fact, this second one is, remember that student example of the essay where he wrote about friendship, the difficulty of making friendships as an adult. That kind of grew out of his marijuana article. So you're going to, this is his map. Okay, and down here, if you really want to take the time, you can see the common points of discussion. He has 3 common points of discussion that he identified. And so if you go back and you pull up his example, I'm going to make it a little bigger right here. You can see that. And I'm going to kind of walk through this a little bit. First of all, it's written in third person, remember, and this also has a thesis. The thesis, even though you're not sharing an opinion, the type of thesis in a problem analysis is basically a statement that shares what the problem looks like based on these people, or basically what the conversation looks like. So here is his thesis right here. While the different authors emphasize different solutions, providing both a space for and education on building quality friendships emerge as the prevailing and most effective solution. Okay, that's his thesis. And if you go over to the next student example, this student had a fantastic thesis. And again, it focuses on the authors. Mentioning the authors is key in the thesis. You have to mention the authors because that's the whole purpose of this essay, is you're telling your audience what they said. And so they have to be in the thesis. So this one right here, and this is about, let's see, pursuit of equity, equality. He's talking about, immigrants and college, fitting into college campuses. And this is his thesis. Their arguments range from calling for new policies that stop discrimination found on school campuses to supporting the incorporation of diverse subjects into American academics. Most stakeholders agree that inequality among college campuses is common, yet they offer different solutions to end the discrimination faced by many minorities. These debated solutions range from opinions concerning affirmative action to increased administrative action. So that whole thing, he describes every little bit of his essay right there. That's what the conversation looks like. If we go back to this first example, we can see how he used the topic sentences. Okay, the common points of discussion from his map. Here's the first one. A rise in loneliness as well as a drop in the number of friends that adults have are both demonstrated in available research. Okay, that's his first common points because a lot of his sources talked about that. And then he just describes them. He describes the sources. Okay, here's what this person says. On the other hand, this is what this person says. And he just shares that information. Okay, here's his second common point of discussion. The staggering drop in the number of friends that the average adult has is concerning, given the tremendous amount of evidence suggesting blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then this section is all about describing the sources, what the sources have to say. Thompson et al., they look at this. They note this, they say this, and this goes on for a couple different paragraphs because there's a little break there. And then his third common point of discussion is right here. And then he shares a couple more authors who wrote about that common point of discussion. Okay, so that is going to be key. Let me get back over here to our module, because then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to write this out, use your, that mapping, use the template, and you're going to map that out. That's the main assignment for this week, is to map